Good morning, everybody. It's 9:30 on the dot. Tom here with my good buddy Bryan Drew. Many of you might have saw Bryan's. My speaker fell. Saw Bryan's little live he did about Governor Pritzker's uh, state of the state, i.e., Pritzker's politicking for president speech. And if you haven't watched it, go check it out. It's pretty good. Bryan and I are going to wait a second. He's working on a background issue, and we're going to give a few minutes for people to jump on, and then we're going to go. How many views you got on that so far, Bryan? 20-some thousand?
I don't know. I'm checking. Check.
You know, it's funny. You get people that are supposed to be. Go ahead. You guys in the chat, are you getting a lot of background noise from me or Bryan? Hey, Debbie. I don't think there's a little echo. That's what Vernon Township just told us, Bryan.
Okay.
I don't know if it's me or you, buddy. I think it might have went away. No. How about now? Is it gone? I think it's gone. If you guys have any questions this morning, we're going to cover a lot of topics quickly. Let us know. Yeah, Dave just said Bryan's echoing a little bit. Bryan's at his office, at the law office there. See how nice and dressed he is this morning, my buddy? He's a sharp dressed guy, man. We were all after the Fayette County Lincoln Day dinner last night. We went and had a drink, and everybody was commenting on how polished and political he looked.
Oh,
that was a compliment. That was awesome. Okay, so like I said, we're going to cover a lot of topics quickly, and then we'll end with what we got going on tonight. I think it's the first time ever in Washington County, down here by me. Washington County is in my representative district for Charlie Meyer's representative district. It's the south end of the district, 109th. I'm in the north end. It's the first time ever that they're. Now I'm echoing in your room, Bryan. It's the first time ever that their Lincoln Day dinner's been sold out. They're worried they're going to run out of food. So that's a good thing. They need to raise some money down there in Washington County, and Darren Bailey and I are glad to participate. But we'll talk about that more in a second. So I've got a lot of topics, as I said. I got a piece of paper. There's a couple of things I want to start off with. You've been hearing and watching a lot the last couple of months where I've been talking about what goes on within the party. You know, I've been talking specifically about the minority leadership position of the Republican Party in the House. It just happens to be held by Toni McCombie. I have no interest in Toni McCombie as a person. What she does in her life it doesn't matter to me whatsoever. She just happens to be the person that sits in that spot and happens to be the person that wields what little influence she has like a dictator. And she gets upset and whines and cries saying, I'm picking on her. I'm not picking on her. And I'm certainly not, as she likes to say, trying to cause divisiveness within the party. And she says we need to all be about unity, okay? And I laugh when I hear that, and so do people that pay attention like a very fine level in politics. Because, guys, I'm not creating any divisiveness. I'm not even a politician. I'm just a citizen of the state like the rest of you, and I'm talking about what they are doing, how they are acting, what they are voting on, and their behavior. And again, specifically right now, I'm talking about Toni and her leadership in the House. Their behavior that is happening when nobody is looking is divisive. It's absolutely divisive. If you don't believe me, go ask the 5 members of the Illinois House of Representatives who had all of their constituent services cut solely due to the fact that they didn't support Toni for the minority leadership role. Is that unifying or is that divisive? And all I do is explain that to you and amplify that across the state because I have like 13 million views a month on social media, Tony says I'm being divisive. I'm not being divisive. I'm just telling you what they're doing. So I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward here in the next year or so, because Tony and her people that want all of the citizens of the state, they're Republicans, to go back to sleep so they can do whatever they want, they're going to ramp up that unifying message. They're going to go, we're not unified. They're going to try to guilt you into believing that we're not unified because of the actions that I'm doing, which is a complete gaslighting, and they want you to believe that unification means that all of you just follow along with what Tony says we need to do, because really what she wants is unity with her being in control. She doesn't want unity of the, what I believe, 5 million Republicans in this state. So keep that in mind. So one of the big things I'm talking about is unity. I'm going to give you an example, one example, which is completely factually true, that gives you direct proof that unity is not what the Illinois House Minority Leader and her people are all about. You ready for this example? In 2018, Noreen Hammond is really, she's been in office almost twice as long as Tony. And Noreen is a House of Representatives member up there in Tony's world by Hancock County, Fulton County, etc. And Noreen drew a primary opponent in 2018 because she votes and supports Democratic bills. Okay, that's what Noreen does. Noreen's biggest financial contributor is the Democrat Teachers Union. Okay, and so Noreen drew a primary opponent in 2018 from a gentleman named Joshua Griffiths. Joshua decided to run as a grassroots candidate against Noreen because Noreen was voting with the Democrats. So what does the Illinois Republican Party do? Well, let me tell you, I'm looking at it right here. Between the House Republicans and the Illinois State Party, they spent $274,000 fighting that grassroots candidate, Mr. Griffiths, into oblivion. The Democrat Teachers Union gave Noreen an extra $25,000. And then all of the other donors and lobbyists and special interest groups gave her another $150,000. So in the primary, where Noreen drew a grassroots candidate, there was $452,019.47 spent to pound that little grassroots candidate into oblivion. And Josh, you know how much money Josh had? $33,000 against her $450,000, of which 60% came from Josh's own party. And guess what? Josh still lost by less than 1,000 votes. So he did a pretty good job, which tells you that Noreen only stays in that seat because the incumbent protection program that Darren Bailey and I talk about all the time is how they keep these Democrat shills. And you guys know I don't like the word, but I'm going to use it. And then you can holler at me later, Brian. These rhinos, that's how they stay in office. And so I'm going to come to this point about, and Darren and I were talking about this last night, and I want Brian to chime in on any of the part of it I've just talked about. We were talking about term limits. And I've never been a big proponent of term limits because I believe in the American people and the citizens of the state to make good choices. But I believe they make good choices when all of the candidates are on an equal playing field. And what I just explained to you with Noreen's $450,000 against Josh's $30,000, when 60% comes from our own party, that's not an equal playing field. That's intentionally done to skew the messaging to keep good qualified grassroots candidates out of the elections and to protect these lifelong politicians like Noreen. So to that extent, Darren and I agree that term limits would be a nice thing, not necessarily to keep the Democrats away, I'll deal with them, but to keep our own party from disenfranchising the Republicans of this state from being able to participate. Brian, you got anything on that?
Well, I mean, it's one thing when people say we want unity, but it's quite another when you're actually match up with the words. And I think that's the problems that we have going on right now. And they say, well, we want everybody to get together, but we're going to back the people who support me. And that's that's just a continuous stream, and that's not unity. That's something different.
It is, and you're right. Tony's idea of unity, like when dealing with the Freedom Caucus, is not to allow them a seat at the table. Her idea of unity is for them to fall in line and to just be nice to her and don't raise the issues of what she does and how she does it. That's Tony's idea of unity. It's called obedience. And since they're not willing to do that, and I'm certainly not willing to do that, well, we're the divisive people. Guys, it's gaslighting, and it's almost narcissistic to say merely because, just take me as a citizen. I am voicing my constitutional right to object to what she says, what she does, how she votes, and I'm being divisive. It's ridiculous that kind of stuff goes on. So I'm going to leave you on the unity thing. They're not about unity. They're about obedience. They're about leaving them alone. Let them do whatever they want. Let them keep taking Democrat money. Let them keep protecting each other. And until that stuff stops, guys, this is why I really care about it. Until that stuff stops, the Republicans will never win. Somebody just said, please look at Core Strategies Consulting Group. Core Strategies, Colin and them are right in the mix of what I'm telling you about. Keep in mind, what's their purpose? Their purpose is to make consulting fees, right? The consultants are the ones that are raping the political party and keeping us in the loser side. Because when I get to how we win elections in Illinois, the consultants don't get rich off of how we have to operate to win. So Colin and those guys, with all due respect, they're in it for the grift. I don't get paid a penny. It costs me money to do this stuff. So obviously there's no ulterior motive for me. Colin and Core got an ulterior motive. And again, I don't even know those guys, and they want to complain about the things that we, myself and others do. Why are we a risk to them when we're just trying to help Republicans win? Because again, if we help Republicans win in the manner that I want to help them win, Colin doesn't make any money, and that's what he cares about. So moving on my list, as you saw the title, I call this the gaslighting that goes on. And one of them that came up yesterday that I talked about is, think about this, you guys. Toni McCombie, in her role as leader, she's getting county central committees asking her to resign as leader because of how aggressive and nasty she's been. I can tell you, since Hancock County put out their letter asking, I've had at least 10 other counties call me. They're like, Tom, we'd like to do this because we saw you post it, but we're scared if we do what Toni might do to us. They're scared of their own minority leader. Think about that. And so Toni knows that it's a problem. So what happens? Toni yesterday was in the North at the Laura Trump event. The Laura Trump event was hosted by somebody that's not a grassroots darling. They are establishment-minded people. That's okay. They get Toni to come and speak at a Trump event, and I'm laughing my behind off because Toni McCombie was a never Trumper until President Trump won again. And how do I know that? Let me tell you how I know that with 100% certainty. I was at a Lincoln Day dinner in Bond County. I live in Bond County. I was there last year as a speaker, and they had Toni McCombie, yeah, in my little county, because we got, never Trumpers here too. They had her speak at our Lincoln Day dinner in Bond County. I was sitting 5 feet from her when she said to the people in this room, it just looks like we're going to have to hold our nose and vote for Trump. And we were talking about it. Bryan heard us talking about it last night. Bryan wasn't at that Lincoln Day dinner, but he heard the people in the room talking to me about that. They're like, you remember that, Tom? I said, of course I remember that. And then they said the irony of Toni now speaking at a Trump event, praising President Trump, going, we're going to fight, 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 is gaslighting. She's trying to pretend that she's something that she's not. It was a never Trumper. I'm going to leave it on this issue unless Bryan wants to chime in. Toni's first race, she won in a Democrat plus 15 district, which means it's a very blue district. Toni won that race as a Republican. Do you think she's really a conservative Republican? If she won in a Democrat district, takes money from the Democrat Teachers Union, one of her biggest financial contributors, tells people in Southern Illinois to hold their nose and vote for Trump. Guys, that's not a conservative. It's not a conservative at all. And so anything on that, Bryan, you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, you know, to look at that, to have that situation.
Yeah. Here's one that
Where,
Brian's going to like.
you
Go
know,
ahead. You got anything else on that one?
say, well, I'm bringing us all together. I'm gonna do this, and then you go vote for taxes. You know, you go vote for taxes. You go vote in line with against school choice, and you go vote for
Pap smears for men.
prostate exams for women, and you go, well, are you really voting in line with the way the people you represent think? And I just don't think it's happening.
No, and it doesn't. And I'm going to roll back quickly for a second, Brian. And I know we talk about this a lot. You get a lot of these Republicans that take these votes for the Democrats with the express understanding that if they draw a primary opponent like Mr. Griffiths against Noreen, we'll protect you and we'll beat that candidate down. So take one for the team and vote for the Democrat bill, because the Democrats and the rhinos in the party, we got your back. We know that's what's going on. And that's what I talk about. And they're mad because all I'm doing is telling people, I'm not making it up. It's what's happening. And I'm explaining it to people. And again, hundreds of thousands of people a day read that, and they don't like it. And I don't care. Now let's talk about the next topic, which is near and dear to Brian's heart. How do we win elections in Illinois? Brian, yes or no? Can we win elections in Illinois by continuing to make the consultants wealthy?
No, that's not going to happen. We've got to get people to go vote. We have to have Republicans go vote, just like you preach and say at every stop you make. Almost 2.5 million people voted for Trump in the last presidential election, and we only get in the midterms 1.7, 1.8. There's 700,000 people who need to get out and vote in midterms, and we got to find them and make them vote, because those people agree with the power that we all believe in. We just got to get them to the blood. You're not going to convince Democrats yet. For some reason, it seems to be the only plan that anyone in the party has had at this point is we need to find softer candidates, people who will appeal to Democrats. At this point, I just don't think you're going to change these people's minds. You're just going to have to outvote.
Correct. And let me dig into what Brian just said a little deeper. There is a philosophy amongst the Tony McCombeys of the world, and no disrespect to the John Kerns of the world, of the Senate side, but I'm not dealing with the Senate, the Noreen Hammonds of the world, that the way we win as Republicans is to find candidates that are more squishy, more soft, more Democratic-like, and that we run them and hope that a bunch of Democrat voters come over and say, okay, I'll vote for that person. Guys, that is the worst failed plan that I could possibly think of. And what I have proposed is the alternative. So let me back up. So what they do is, right now we're in almost March of 25. The election's not till November of 26 for the midterms. They're not doing anything right now. You know what they're going to start doing real soon? They're going to start finding candidates to run in races that they think are more like a Democrat than a Republican, but they can sell them as a Republican and hopefully get Democrats to vote for them. That's the candidates that the Tonys of the world are looking for. And that's the candidates that Tony will give money to. And that's the candidates that she will try to help get through the primaries. And any grassroots candidate that believes in the Republican Party platform like you, she's going to knock you down, because that philosophy that they have, they believe they need that Democratic-ish like candidate to win. And here's what I propose, and I did it last night in Fayette County in detail. And I used the state races as an example that how we do the same thing in these legislative races. I said, look, Darren Bailey lost by 550,000 votes in 2026 because he got 1.75 million votes and J.B. Pritzker got about 2.25. So it was about 500,000, give or take. I said President Trump in 2024 and in 2020 got 2.45 million votes. So we've got 700,000 Republicans that don't vote in the midterms, that vote in the presidential cycle. And if we get them to vote in the midterms, we win every race, every race. And I broke Fayette County down by precinct and gave them the exact number of voters in each precinct that Don't vote in the midterms, but vote in the primaries. And there'll be 70 in this precinct, 20 in this precinct, 10 in this precinct. Those are identifiable voters that are already Republicans that just because of their psychology, they don't vote in the midterms. We get them to vote in the midterms by building relationships with them, going and knocking on their doors, doing a ground game, getting them into the party, getting them involved, getting them to know how important their vote is. Because a lot of people just say, oh, my vote doesn't count. Get them to vote, we win. Did I lose Brian? Yeah, I lost Brian. Let me get him back in. Is that okay? You're back, buddy. But guess what? That requires right now people on the ground going and knocking on these doors that we've identified. We know who they are. Knocking on their doors, building relationships, getting their contact information, and working that process. You know who doesn't make any money on what I'm proposing to you? Brian, you know who it is? The consultants.
Right.
The consultants don't make any money. What the party structure that's in bed with the political consultants do is they'll wait till 3 months before the election. It'll be July, August of 26, and they'll stop bombarding the houses with the mailers and the digital ads and all of this stuff that is white noise for most people. But most importantly, those individuals that we need to vote in that midterm that don't vote in the primaries, they're not listening to anything political because they're not invested in the midterm process. They tune it out. And guess what? We continue to lose by the same numbers, midterm over midterm over midterm, because the same failed games that are being played by Tony, being played by others. Well, I say somebody just sent me something. Hold on. That's a state representative. Let me see if I got to tell you that. Oh, I just got an update. I apologize. I got to bring breaking news. I have to apologize to the organizers of the Laura Trump event. I apologize. If somebody gives me something and it may not be correct, I'll come back and tell you guys. Nope, not it. There's an update. The organizers of the event for Laura Trump were pissed off last night. I just got firsthand knowledge because Tony McCombie crashed the stage. She wasn't even an invited speaker, Brian.
Oh
so
my.
she weaseled her way up onto the stage because Miss Trump was late. Remember, Miss Trump was 45 minutes late. And she worked her way up on the stage while Miss Trump was in transit to give that, and the organizers were pissed off. You can't make this stuff up. Go ahead, Ryan. You want to add something to that?
I was shocked when they said she spoke there because I knew that the Trump campaign was not a big fan.
No, they're not a fan of hers, and that's what I was thinking. When Miss Trump or president, they know she's a never Trumper. How did she make it to the stage? And here, I just got another message. Let me see what it says. It says she wasn't even prepared. I'm reading this to you guys. I can't tell you who said it. Because this person was in the room and very well connected. Was unprepared, a little bit buzzed. Tony likes to drink. And she played the tough conservative woman, even swearing a little bit. And she says to everybody in the room that they were talking to was like, she's not a Trump supporter. What's she doing? She's so desperate that that's what she does. But let me get back to the voting, guys. The consultants don't get rich with what I'm proposing to you is the only way. And I promise you with 100%, I said 99.9 last night because we're lawyers. We always hedge a little, right, Brian? That we can win as Republicans if we do what I'm talking about. But it's going to take people, everyday people, to do it. And who doesn't get rich? The consultants. And guess what? Who loses power? The Tony McCombies lose power if you, the people, start making our party successful. And she doesn't want to lose power, guys, under any set of facts. She doesn't want to lose power. She wants to control everything. She wants to control who runs in the primaries, who makes it through the primaries, who gets to the general elections, who wins the general elections, wants that control. And what I am proposing to you, I promise, gives the people control over their own party. And that scares her to death. Brian, on the election thing, you got anything, buddy?
No, it does. And the problem is when we get going and we go out as precinct committeemen, and which I am, and other people, and we go talk to the voters, I don't know how many times I hear, well, what's it matter? Because we elect so-and-so and they went and voted to increase taxes. We elected so-and-so and they voted with this. And it's just demoralizing for the people out here.
It is demoralizing. You're right. And that's where when people hear me talking about Tony McCombie votes to allow men to have a pap smear and stuff like that. It was a transgender bill, right? And it's like, it demoralizes the Republican base because they have people in leadership voting for that. Tony voted to allow non-citizens the right to be police officers and arrest citizens of the state of Illinois. Tony voted for the Green New Deal, which President Trump abandoned, which makes Illinois have to be carbon neutral by 2045. It's just stuff like that that demoralizes people. They're like, Tom, we don't want to vote. Why are we going to vote? Because we don't have anybody that's going to fight for us. And they either one, don't get it, Brian, or two, they don't care because they want to keep their $100,000 to $175,000 a year jobs. And if the party starts winning, it's going to make them less comfortable and able to hold on to that seat. Because if we win, we're going to get real leaders in these positions that know how to run this organization. We're going to get nothing would please me more than to get a strong leader, not because of his criminal background, but the way Madigan ran the party, absent his criminal stuff, he ran the party to promote the Democrat stuff and to, again, get himself rich. That's a separate conversation. But we need a leader that's going to run this party to win for the party. Christopher Welch, who's the current Speaker of the House for the Democrats, he runs the party. He's probably a better example than the criminal, but he runs the party to be successful for the party. And we don't have that. We have people running it to be successful for themselves, to keep their consultants happy so they can make money. And again, keep the grassroots beat down. Don't let them in a primary race. We can't let Tony will go to somebody that wants to run for, let's say we have an open seat, Brian, where we're trying to compete against a Democrat, and we get a couple of people that want to run in a primary and an open primary, Republican primary. Let's say like Katie Stewart down here where I live. There's going to be a primary. They're going to try to take Katie out again. Tony's going to find a candidate that will agree to support her for leader, and then she'll throw all kinds of resources towards that person out of the party. And the candidate that says, sorry, Tony, I can't do that. I'm going to be a thinker for myself. They'll try to run that person in the ground. Is that unity, Mr. Drew? That's not unity.
It's not. And my frustration is I watch people fight and push to try to be right now as a party, we've lost every statewide office. Since Rauner, we haven't won in ages. We're the super minority. They're fighting to be the top loser. And I don't understand that mentality. And that's not good enough for me. And it's not good enough for the people out here in the state of Illinois for the Republican Party currently to fight over who's the number one person for the losing party. It's just, we need a plan to win and take back Springfield, take back these statewide offices. And there isn't one. And that's the part that just infuriates me.
How do we win elections, Mr. Drew?
Once again, you have more people vote than the opposite party.
It's enough. When I said that last night, people were like, seriously, because Representative Miller, when I asked the question, how do we as Republicans win? The crowd's looking at me, don't even know what to say. And Chris Miller has heard me say that before. He's like, we got to get more votes than the Democrats. And people start laughing. And I'm no, we're serious. You just got to get more votes. So can we talk about how do we get more votes? And I said, in Fayette County, you know how many more votes I need in 2026 than we got in 2022 if we want to beat Pritzker? 700 more votes. And guess what? You got 28 precincts in Fayette County. And I can tell you each precinct how many more votes we need to get to the 700. And people are going, Tom, that makes so much more sense. We understand that. Why isn't the party talking about that? You heard people asking me that, right, Brian? And I was like, why doesn't the party talk about that? And I said, because they lose power and influence and control, and the consultants don't make any money. And they were upset, but they understood. The light bulb went off. When I go to any Lincoln Day dinner, and I've got 4 or 5 of them scheduled in the next month, and I explain this to them, I don't talk about Tony at these events. I talk about her here. Her name doesn't even come up. I lay out a plan of success, and it's easy to understand, and it's in English, and they get it, and they have measurable things that they can try to accomplish. And I can't get the state party to listen to me for nothing because they're scared they might offend people. But that's, again, it's all about winning elections, guys. That's all I care about is Republicans winning elections. And Tony doesn't like it, and Noreen doesn't like it. Charlie Meyer doesn't like it. A lot of them, they don't like it because I just want to win. I want Republicans to win, not them to win. I don't give a crap about those people that are in elected office right now. I want Republicans to win, and they don't care about that. Let's go to, I'm back to primaries now. Remember when I just explained to you the primary race for Noreen Hammond and how they did that to Mr. Griffiths? Noreen Hammond will have another primary opponent this cycle. It's guaranteed. We've already got a couple of names. And you know what? Is the Republican Party going to come in again and spend another $270,000 to protect Noreen? Because there's a difference between 2018 and 2025. I'm going to make sure that the 13 million people a month that watch what I write know exactly how much money Tony McCombie spends on every primary race to defend the swamp. They will know it. I'll post it every day, every freaking penny. Tony McCombie's going to have a primary opponent. Charlie Meyer's going to have a primary opponent. Remember when I told you Noreen in 2018 drew a primary opponent for taking the bad vote on the largest income tax in Illinois history? Charlie Meyer did the same thing. And he drew a primary opponent, Mr. Don Moore. Don had about $20,000. And guess what? The party and the teachers union spent $150,000 to defend Charlie against that primary opponent. That grassroots guy had $20,000. Charlie will have a primary opponent this cycle. And I will let the world know how much money they spend. And you know what? Here's what they're going to do. Here's what the party's going to do. Mark my words. Bryan can attest, give his comments. They're going to go, oh, now we can't even beat the Democrats now because we don't have any money left because DeVore and all these people made us run primaries and we had contested primaries that we had to defend. You don't have to defend them. Don't spend a penny defending in these primaries. Let those candidates fend for themselves, because if they're representing their district the way that they should represent their district, they got no chance of losing. Blaine Wilhauer had a primary opponent in 2022, funded by the teachers union. They run a squishy Republican against him. They spent $400,000. Blaine won by 80% because he represents his district. So don't let them BS and gaslight you. They do not need to spend a penny on primaries. Save that money for the Democrats, but they'll spend the money on the primaries because they're more concerned about protecting themselves than they are winning races against Democrats. I'm here to tell you with 100% certainty that's the truth. Go ahead, Bryan.
Well, and I mean, what our elected officials have to understand is, yeah, they're voting for themselves and they're voting there. But when they make those votes, it has an impact on the people who get out here and vote, and no one gets excited to go vote. I mean, we have to get 700,000 more people to come vote in 2026. How do they get excited with that when our minority leaders taking away the privileges of half the, well, big chunk of the Republicans in there just because they don't agree with her being in charge? And then go vote for the teachers union, these public teacher unions. Voting for them does not help teachers. It doesn't help our education system. And teachers are the ones that get harmed. I mean, they haven't added any teachers. They haven't added extra workers. No, they add mid-level supervisors. I mean, I have DCFS workers down here complain all the time. They say, we didn't add any workers, but every time I call Springfield, I have 6 new bosses. And that's where all the money's going when you vote for these things. And yet they keep doing it, and then we come back here to say, hey, let's vote for Republicans. We need you to come out and vote. And they're just not having it. And it's frustrating. And then I hear people down here saying, I've seen comments too, you know, oh, well, Chicago, they're cheating, they're ballot harvesting. We have enough votes to overcome that. We can beat them. Period. We'll beat the Democrats just by getting out our voters in the midterm.
Exactly. And I said that last night, and I'll say it here again. Illinois is Democrat, not because of the Democrats. It's because the Republicans are complacent, disenfranchised, and not excited about the party in Illinois. If you go to Texas, you guys, Texas has Houston. Texas has Austin. These are big blue cities that vote Democrat. But the conservatives across the rural and suburban areas vote in such high numbers that they overwhelm those blue cities. Florida has Tallahassee. It has Tampa. And it has Orlando. It has these big cities that are blue. And the rural and suburban Republicans overwhelm the blue cities. It is universal across this nation that is the case. Illinois is no different. If 700 people in Fayette County, if you have a county, I don't care what county you're in, I can break it down by precinct and tell you exactly how many more votes your county has to provide to beat J.B. Pritzker's ass. I can give you the numbers. I can give you the precincts. You got to do the work. You got to do the work. And then we win. So in all due respect, I'm not going to put your names out here. When you're over here complaining and whining and biatching about, oh, it's cheating, oh, it's rigged, you are the problem. You're the problem. Want to be the solution? What precinct do you live in? In what county? I'll give you the number of people that you got to go get vote in the midterm, that don't vote it, that only vote in the general or the presidential, and we'll win. If you're not willing to do that, then I love y'all. Shut the hell up. Okay? Because that's all that matters. You want anything else to that, Bryan?
No, I mean, we've got to go vote. It's a simple concept. I mean, it really isn't complex. And I just wish the statewide party would put money into that. I mean, Pritzker put, what did he do? He put about $100 million into that. And so what happened is there was about 700 and something thousand permanent mail-in voters that happened. 500,000, well, no, it was 900,000, 700,000 were Democrats. And now they vote in midterm elections. And what happened? He went from 1.8, 1.9 to 2.3. I mean, that's what happened, and we have to beat them at their own game. We have to do it better than they do, and I just haven't seen a plan. You say it, but I'd like to see it come from the actual, from the people in charge of the party, to say, okay, yeah, here's our plan, and here's the money we're going to allocate for it so that we get this done.
And I want to make sure I say this correctly, because I'll probably offend a few people, but I don't care. As I read the comments over here, people are talking about all kinds of shit. They're talking about money and how money gets spent wrong and all of this crap. And I'm being nice when I say, people, shut the hell up. None of that matters, because the Democrats are in the super majority. They'll spend the money on whatever they want to spend it on. There's not a damn thing that anybody can do about it. And the only freaking thing that you need to be talking about is, how do I get X amount of voters in my precinct to vote Republican in the midterms that aren't voting in the midterms? If you are having any other conversation than that, you are a fool, and you are part of the problem on why Republicans can't win. And the Tonys of the world and the Noreens of the world and the Charlie Myers of the world, they're not talking about what I am talking about with you, because they don't care whether the Republicans win or not. They care about themselves staying in power. They care about their $150,000 a year leadership job, and they care about their license plate on their vehicle that says House member. They care about their big fancy offices in Springfield and keeping that. That is what they care about. And for anybody that will say, Tom, you're just, arguing within the party is, doesn't help us. Guys, if I'm not saying what I'm saying, the party keeps losing for another 20 or 30 years. I promise you, because they're not going to do what it takes to win as Republicans. President Trump showed you what it takes to win as a Republican. Do you see anybody in elected office doing what he's doing in a leadership role? No, they're not doing what President Trump does. They take money from the Democrats. They vote with the Democrats. They stifle the Republican electorate, the grassroots, in any way that they can. They want everybody to shut up. That's what we got to deal with, okay? I don't care what we're spending money on right now, to the extent it doesn't get me another vote out of another precinct.
Well, and think about it. Look where we're at right now in Illinois. after the November election, Trump wins. I've had lots of people that I see. I mean, you've been all over the state. I've been moving all over the state. And when you talk to people, they're excited. They say, look, you know what? Maybe there is a chance we could turn the country around. And now they're seeing it happen. And now people in Illinois are going, you know what? Maybe it isn't hopeless. Maybe this is something we can do. We have a golden opportunity to grab a hold of this excitement, to grab hold of this feeling that people have that maybe there is a chance to change and get something done. But instead, Springfield's fighting over who's going to be in charge and punishing people like they're second graders and taking away their parking spots and their offices and talking about who's going to be this and who's going to be that in charge, instead of saying, hey, who cares who's in charge, because we're the losers. We are so far behind, we can't even see first place. And so until we get back in control, it's irrelevant. I mean, I don't even know that the vast majority of people understand that in Springfield, when you're in the super minority, you don't get to put a single bill forward. If you came up with the greatest thought bill that had ever existed that would benefit 100% of the people of Illinois as a Republican, the Democrats would go, that's great, we're never going to vote on it. Then they would take the bill, rename it, reconstitute it, and then shove it back as their own bill. I mean, it's never going to happen until we take it back. So winning elections is all that matters. Who's in charge of the top loser is irrelevant. We have to win elections, and people are excited. And if we squander this opportunity, I'm fearful we won't get it back for a decade again.
Bryan, I am so grateful that you articulate it that way, because it should be no secret that since President Trump won, I've become more vocal. Even I was pretty vocal before, because what you just said is exactly true. There is an energy amongst Republicans in this state that is something I've not seen in a long time. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to do with it. And the party is squandering this energy. They're squandering it because they're greedy, and because they're inept, and because not only greedy, they don't want to lose their spots. You said being in charge of second place is very lucrative. It's very lucrative to be in charge of second place. There's no expectations for you to do anything. So staying in charge of second place becomes, whether they intuitively get it and are self-aware of it or not, that becomes the modus operandi, which us lawyers use, right? That's what they're doing. And that's why Tony is taking parking spots away from people that won't bow to her. That's why she takes their offices away. That's why she cuts their constituent services, because she's more interested in staying the leader of second place than she is winning. If we harness this energy for the sole purpose of finding those voters that don't vote in 26, that are not going to vote in 26, no matter how many flyers you send them, no matter how many digital ads you put in front of them, we can spend $3, $4, $5, $10 million on that effort, and we will lose, because those 700,000 people will not respond to that. They won't respond to it. And I'm glad you brought that up, Bryan. It's exactly true. Another way, getting back to what you're talking about with bills and the putting up of bills that have no chance of winning. Would you agree with me, Bryan, that Republicans right now have no chance of putting up a bill that would in any way infringe on the abortion rights of people in Illinois? Do you think that Republicans have a chance of getting that through the Democrat legislature?
No.
So if someone in elected office, a Republican whose image is becoming tarnished with the Republicans, you with me? Hypothetical for you. Their image is tarnished with conservative Republicans, and they put forth a bill that would have a negative impact on abortion rights and would be seen as kind of a pro-life bill. Why would they put that bill forward?
Well, I mean, it has no chance of winning, so you put it forward so you get to say you're trying to do something.
Exactly. And so that's what happened last cycle, and we just had the 103rd General Assembly that ended, and we just started the 104th. So last year, Terry Bryant, who's a senator from down in our area, which is a Democrat darling, she's a Democrat darling. She takes more money from the Democrats than almost any other donor. Fine.
She's my senator. I'll have to answer to that one.
Okay, you can defend her if you want to. Defend her. Council. It's okay. She put
tax,
forth a
the
bill.
tax votes are indefensible. There's nothing you can say about it other than it's wrong.
She put forth a bill in the Senate last year to put forth a place that makes ultrasounds available, and the abortion clinics must offer ultrasounds to women coming in considering abortion. And I'm not here to talk about the efficacy of that bill, whether it's good or it's bad. That's not the purpose of our conversation today. We're talking about political gaslighting. Tony put that bill, or Tony, not sorry, Tony. Terry Bryant put that bill up last year in the Senate, and guess what happened to it? It died in the Senate. It died in the Senate at the end of the 103rd General Assembly. 3 days later, Charlie Meyer, who is now having, I can tell you, I live in his district. The conservative Republicans, eyes are open right now going, Charlie's not what we thought he was. Charlie puts forth the exact same bill. It is verbatim identical, Brian. He puts it up there, and then he does a big presser, a big presser for Charlie's if 20 people read it. He puts a presser out there that I am in support, this conservative idea, and I put forth this bill that makes, abortion clinics have to provide the opportunity for these ultrasounds. And again, not here to talk about whether policy-wise that's good or bad. I'm here to tell you that the only reason that Charlie did that was so he could try to use it as a political gaslighting of spinning himself as a conservative. They do this on purpose, you guys. These are games that they play with the people. Charlie knows that bill's not going to make it out of committee. He knows it's going to die. He knows nobody will ever talk about it again, other than him telling people, "Oh yeah, I tried to do that." Guess what? The Democrats that finance Charlie's campaign know that that bill's not going anywhere. They know that he's doing it to try to build his street cred within his district. It's 80% conservative Republicans. And Charlie wants them talking about, he wants the constituents talking about this bill. And he doesn't want them talking about, he voted for the largest tax hike in Illinois history. He voted for doubling the gas tax on you. He voted for Amendment 1. He voted for pap smears for men. He voted for all of these bills that are completely abhorrent to the people of the 109th District. And he's trying to build his street cred back up to deflect from that because he knows he's going to draw a primary opponent. Those types of games is what's wrong with the system. And Democrats do it too, you guys. Don't get me wrong. They do it. But our own party is doing that to our people, and I'm tired of it. And so when I call it for what it is, it's Tom being divisive, and he's just pointing out we're not unified. And I'm like, bullshit. I'm just telling people what the games are that are going on, and Charlie's playing that game right now. And guess what? When it doesn't go anywhere, in next cycle, some Republican that's got a tarnished reputation with the Republican constituency will post the same exact bill, and they'll start all over. And they do it with other bills. Guys, it's a big shield game. Brian, you want to defend Terry Bryant now?
I mean, I get along with Terry. I do. She's my state senator. I disagree with her on some of her votes, and that's okay. And I think you have to hold your representatives accountable. You have to say, look, I don't agree with you. And for me, I would like to see some of these state senators and state representatives who have voted for tax increases, who have voted for some of these bills that are terrible, who have taken the money from the teachers unions to say, you know what, I was misguided when I did that. That was a mistake. I'm not going to do it anymore. And I know they're scared. I know they're afraid if we don't take these teacher union money, well, then we're not going to have any money when we get a Republican opponent, or we're not going to have money to run our campaigns. My personal opinion is this, and Tom, you tell me if I'm wrong. If they quit taking money from the teachers unions, they started voting against every tax that comes along. If they started putting and voting for bills that put parents back in charge of their kids' education, gave them a choice so that your zip code didn't determine what quality of education your kid gets. If they started doing that, they would find that there's tons of Republicans. There are tons of people out here and organizations who would fund their campaigns, and it would be Republican groups, not Democrat groups. And the only thing they would owe those people is to go in and vote their conscience and vote the way the people want them to do it.
Correct.
But, I for some reason, they're just too afraid to let that money go, and I don't get it.
They are, and let me, and I'm glad you brought that up again. I'm pulling up, and somebody just said over here, and I'm going to say your name. It's okay. It's Tammy Crawford. Tammy's a good Republican. Tammy, I do not think that Terry Bryan is a bad person. I'm sure she's a good person. Nothing I'm talking about, and that's something that we as human beings have to be able to do and willing to do, is criticize our elected officials without it being criticizing them as human beings. See, because these elected officials, they try to drag the human being aspect into it to guilt induce people to not talk about it. I'm not talking about Terry as an individual. I'm talking about what she does as an elected official. The same with, I'm pulling up Terry Bryant's donors money right now. The same with Tony McCombie. I'm not talking about Tony individually. I'm talking about what she does is an elected official and is the leader. Okay, so a committee to elect Terry Bryant. Are you ready? I'm pulling it up right now. While it's pulling up, Brian, I'm internet slow. The Democrats give this money to these folks, and you said, well, they're worried if they don't get any money from them, they don't have any money to defend themselves against a grassroots opponent. What you're saying is that they're willing to take money from Democrats to defend themselves against fellow Republicans that might run against them. Let me ask you this, and it really tells the tale on everything it has to do with taking money from Democrats. If Republican elected officials or candidates use the money that the Democrats give them for the purpose of trying to beat Democrats, would they still give them the money?
It would end instantly. If they put it in your campaign account in your plus 18, plus 20 Republican district, like we have down here where I'm at, and they sent that money up to the districts where there's competitive races going on for a Republican to beat a Democrat, that would dry up instantly.
So if I say it another way, they only give these Republican officials that money because they like the way that the Republican uses it because it benefits the Democrats. Is that a more accurate statement? If it benefits the Democrats by keeping them in office because the Democrats like them in office. Let me disclaim it for you a little bit.
It definitely,
it's not the same
these
thing,
organizations have their.
He's hedging because Terry's a senator. I love it.
No, I'm not hedging. But there is, it's a little more complex than that, but in essence, what it boils down to is these organizations want control and they want their money, and they'll take it from anyone who will continue to give it to them. And the problem is and I've had some people go, well, what does it matter? Why would these organizations give this to Republicans when they're in the super minority, and when they vote, it doesn't matter? And I said, here's why. Because when the teachers union moves forward, these public unions, and they start hiring all these mid-level people, supervisors, and spending billions of dollars on the Illinois State Board of Education instead on actually teachers and our students, when Republicans come out and start complaining, they step back and go, hey, that was a bipartisan bill. Republicans voted for that. We lose the ability to complain about it. Whenever you vote for taxes that increase, whenever we start screaming as Republicans and going, hey, these taxes are out of control, what are we going to do? The Democrats come out and go, hey, that bill was bipartisan. Republicans voted for that. And it guts us. It guts our ability to complain and to make a distinction. Because when people are upset, they want to go, well, I want to vote for something different. I'm not happy with Illinois. I'm tired of the taxes. I'm tired of education. I'm tired of not feeling safe in my community. I'm tired of you blowing money on people who aren't even citizens of this state. But then they turn around and as soon as they go, you know what, I'm going to look at the Republican Party. Then the Democrats march out and go, hey, by the way, look, they voted for the same thing we did. Look, they supported it too. And it just guts us. It guts us to get any foothold for the people so that we can win elections, which should be the only goal at this point.
Correct. And a couple of things, and you're right, but it's called controlled opposition. What you just explained is what it's about. They want to control the opposition. So the Democrats are going to give money to Republicans that they know that they can get to vote for these bills when they need them to call it bipartisan. And then if that candidate draws a primary opponent because they voted for something that their constituents wouldn't want, they come fight off the opponent. And that's what it is. So I got your senator pulled up here, Miss Bryant. Miss Bryant's second largest contributor to date is the Democrat Teachers Union, coming in at a whopping, let me see here, approximately, she gets it from 3 different areas, a little over $300,000 she has taken from the teachers unions, and her most recent contribution was July of 2024. So 300 grand she's taken from them. Okay. I got a problem with that. And she'll keep doing it because she can get away with it. Because if Terry draws a good, solid grassroots candidate to run against her, remember when I told you before that the House Republican organization will come in and they'll fight and they'll take her out, and the Republican Party? You know how much money the Republican Party, either the House caucus or the state party, has spent on Terry Bryant? $2.1 million. $2.1 million. Now, that's not just primaries, and it's also generals if they drew an opponent from a Democrat. But Terry's not at risk for a Democrat down there, is she, Bryan?
No, our district is off the charts Republican. I mean, it's
yeah. So our party has spent $2.1 million defending her, 300,000 plus coming from the teachers union on top of that. Guys, that's why we can't build momentum to take this party back, because these individuals, the Democrats like them. The party likes to be okay with the Democrats. They don't want to risk taking the fight, because if the Republicans get so good, whoever's in charge, let's say it's Tony, let's say it's John Kern, let's say it's Norman Hammond, Terry, whoever's in charge gets really good at beating Democrats, and the Democrats are like, crap, we're at risk here. We go from 40 to 42 to 45 to, God forsakes, 50 in the House. Do you think the Democrats still give the money? Two things, Bryan. Do you think the Democrats still give the money, yes or no? That's one question. No. Second, do you think they come at with a vengeance whoever they think's responsible for that success?
Absolutely. They do whatever they can to get rid of it.
Yes. And you don't have to answer this question. Do you think Tony McCombie has the courage to take that risk? You don't have to answer that. I'll say it. No, she doesn't. That's why they like her and support her, because Tony, do I believe Tony wants Republicans to win? It's a fair question. My answer is yes, I believe she does. But Tony will not do what it takes to put herself at risk and her own political career at risk to make Republicans successful. That's the difference. Because if she listened to people that know how to be successful and she starts making success for us, the Democrat donations dry up and Christopher Welch comes swinging hard at Tony McCombie with, one, a primary challenger who's a squishy Republican to take her out. They'll spend $10 million wiping her off the planet. And then they'll put a Democrat challenger if she survives that. Tony's not going to have, she doesn't have the courage for that. That's why I'm pissed. We need leaders that'll say, I'll be the sacrificial lamb. Follow me to the promised land, like President Trump did. They sued his ass. They prosecuted his ass. They did everything they could to destroy that man, to keep him from winning for Republicans. And they'll do, you know, I'm on a roll today. You started it. The Democrats in Illinois are one of the most formidable Democratic machines in the nation. It's a compliment. And Tony will not take the fury of those people to be successful, so that's why she's the deal cutter, and that's why I'm pissed. Be the sacrificial lamb, or get the hell out of the way and let somebody else do it.
And you know, and I've had people say, well, hey, you know, why does Tom get so fired up about the teachers unions? Don't we support teachers? I said, of course we support teachers, but you have to remember,
I represented hundreds of them. So did you.
I represented 309 of them during COVID, and what you have to remember is, we support teachers. The teachers union supports the teachers union. And those were the same people that said, you'll get vaccinated or we'll fire you, that didn't protect them when that went on, who doesn't provide them with resource officers. I mean, our budget's gone up, what, $18 billion or a little over 20, nearly $20 billion since Pritzker's been in office. What services additional do we have in 6 years? Nothing. I can tell you, nothing. They don't put resource officers in our schools. We don't support our teachers. We barely have any more teachers that are there. But yet billions of dollars are getting spent, but our teachers aren't getting any support. That's because the unions there, they're growing their ranks. They want the money coming in. They're doing that. And that's why taking their money is so dangerous. And it's got to stop, because then you're beholden to them. Because then when bills come up that says, hey, we want a voucher system, or we want charter schools, so that we can keep these educational places honest. And when you're underperforming, I can take my child out of my school district, out of my zip code, and move them into a school district that is performing well, that is doing things the right way, that is supporting their teachers. And it just makes our education better for everyone. It'll help our teachers. Yet when you take the money from the teachers organization, the teachers union, let me promise you, the one thing they don't want more than anything else on the planet is
Brad
choice.
Noloff says, turn your speaker down a little bit. He says it's really loud on their end.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's probably the echo. Your speaker's too loud. Go ahead.
Yeah,
buddy.
I don't know where that's
better.
coming from. On my end, I even changed to my iPad, but it's...
There's a good Republican for you right there. Brad Noloff from Clinton County. He's a board chair. Good Republican. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, Brian. Let's see, I got something else here. Oh, we've talked about a lot about how they suppress the Tonys of the world, suppress good Republicans from being able to run for office against the swamp. There's another way that they're trying to suppress, because what I try to do, my whole purpose, is to incite the Republican Party across this state to just light it up, baby. I want those 700,000 people to get off center and win and take Pritzker and send his happy ass back to Wisconsin to muck the stalls where he was during COVID. He was mucking stalls, right? Again, he mucked a stall in his life. And that's all I care about. I don't give a crap if Tony's collateral damage or John Kern. I don't care who in the party's collateral damage. You got to be willing to fight. That's my only purpose. They try to stifle us by the things that they're doing, the gaslighting, which I've been talking about. Here's another thing that they're doing with their social media accounts. They're going out here and they're blocking and they're suppressing people's voices on their social media accounts. That's what they're doing. Most of them are doing it. They'll block you. They'll take your statement and they'll hide it or whatever they're doing. And I'm here to tell you that they can't do that in a public forum. Can't do it. Here's what they're trying to do now to get around that. So you guys need to listen. This is important because you'll be able to find attorneys that will help you with this. And I would love nothing more than all of these elected officials that do this to get sued into oblivion, only for the reason is I want your voices to be catapulted across this state to drive the energy that we need. What happens is you have elected officials who run for office at some time in the past, and they had a campaign page, okay? And, XYZ candidate for office. I'm going to be generic because you guys know that I'm involved in, I was involved in the Charlie Meyer litigation. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. It's over. XYZ candidate running for office. With me? Then they win that elected office. Now, their candidate page, their political page, is not subject to First Amendment because they're not a government actor, but they're a candidate like anybody. If they want, they can block you, they can suppress you, they can do whatever they want on their candidate page. That's it. Once they become elected, a lot of times what happens, because as a candidate, they've built a profile. They've got their name ID. Then they start, once they're elected, engaging in government business on their campaign page. What was a campaign page, they start talking about votes that they're taking, bills that they're presenting, what they're doing as an elected official. And what happens is that page morphs from a political page to a public government page for them as a elected representative. It becomes a public forum. Keeping up with me, this is important. And then they'll grow that platform over the years, and they might get up to 5, 10, 15,000 followers because of what they're doing in their elected position. That page, whether or not it's a government forum or a political page, is not based on the label they give it, not based upon what they want to call it. It's based on the content that they put on the page. If they're putting government content on the page, it's a public page. Crystal clear. Then what they're doing now, what some of them are trying to do now, is they're trying to then say, oh, okay, because what they do is once they win the election, then they change the title not to XYZ candidate for office, they change it to XYZ elected representative. You've seen it, right, Brian? And they change the title and everything. Now they've realized that they're going to be called out and sued for violating your freedom of speech because you're whacking at them. The Republican electorate's coming to life, man, and these rhinos don't like it. And so they're blocking you and suppressing you, trying to get around it. And now they're changing it, their page, they change it back to XYZ candidate. They're going to go, well, this is really my political page. And they're creating a brand new state business page, which is a new separate page where that's where I'm going to do my government business over here now. It's got like 200 followers and I got 15,000 on this one. But they think just by creating a new state page that they can take what they were doing state business on forever and kind of turning it back into a political page. Like, oh, it's not government anymore, it's political. Guys, that's not going to work. You can't just arbitrarily take a public forum that has become a public forum and say it's no longer a public forum and I'm going to block all of you off my 15,000 followers that I've had for a public forum for 10 years. And you got to now go over here on this page that nobody's really doing anything. Have you seen this, Brian? You want to comment on it?
I've seen it. It's unfortunately common.
Yeah, and it's not going to work. So if you have a elected official that you've been commenting on their government action on a page forever, and they now want to try to tell you, oh, I'm from today forward, this is now a political page, and it's not government anymore, and I got a new one that's government, and then they want to try to block you, you've got rights that you can try to enforce if you want to. That's all I'm going to say about that. But it's another way to try to suppress the grassroots voice of the state. They want to suppress you. They don't want you talking about, well, wait a second, you voted for pap smears for men? Why did you do that? You voted for doubling the gas tax? You take money from Democrats? They don't want you putting that on their page and their constituents knowing about it. They don't want that to happen. So that's why they're trying to suppress people any way they can. They want all y'all to go back to sleep. Nighty-night. Don't pay attention to politics anymore because we want to do whatever the hell we want. We want to keep getting paid. We want to be, second place forever in Republican politics in Illinois because it's safe for us. The Democrats are happy. They give us money. They leave us alone. We can talk tough every now and again, and we're going to fight for you. And then they don't do crap because they can't. And I'm tired of that crap. Before I get to our last topic, my friend, you got anything?
Honestly, I just like to see our leaders of the party who are gonna scream unity now because you called them out on a lot of their votes and things of that sort. I would just like to see them lead by example. I would love to see them say, you know what? I made some mistakes, but going forward, I'm going to do it differently. And actually lead by example. Show us you want unity. Go to the Freedom Caucus members and say, hey, let's get together. Put one of them in leadership. Acknowledge that there's a big group of the party that may view things a little different than you do, but hey, we're all together, and our differences within our party are a heck of a lot less than the differences we have with the Democrat Party. But look, out here as constituents, all we can do is point out when our leaders aren't voting or acting the way they should, and that's what you do, and that's what we're supposed to do. You're a voter. That's who you are. Now you have a big platform, but you're a voter. You're a constituent, and we get to question these people, and they're the ones that need to step up and show leadership by example. And I really hope they do it because we have a golden opportunity in Illinois right now.
I just got another message for you guys where, remember what I told you? They create theater to try to create a distraction, right? That's what they do. They're trying to create the distractions like the bills that they propose. Well, first thing this morning, she was in Bond County and not Clay. So the first thing this morning, what did Tony McCombie do? She's out on her page, you know, her political page, she tries to call it now, which is really her government page that she blocked me from. Here's what she does. You guys are going to love this. On Friday evening, I had the opportunity to hear Laura Trump speak in McHenry County. She was nothing short of inspiring, which I'm sure Miss Trump was inspiring. You know, her fight and resilience and unwavering dedication, you know, which I agree with that for Miss Trump. You know, Republicans from all over the state came together. See the language? And we had a great showing of House Republican members. And she says, I'm proud to stand with fellow conservatives as we fight for the future of Illinois. Guys, that's gaslighting crap. It's gaslighting crap. And guess what? Here was a constituent that said, wasn't it you last year that made the comment that we all needed to hold our noses and vote for Trump? That's a very conflicting message. And again, this guy wasn't there. He read something that I wrote. I was sitting right there 5 feet from her. And so were a couple of other people that I'm not saying their names. Brian knows who they are because they don't want Tony picking on them. It says, I'm not sure I spoke in Clay County. Well, that's where this man's from. And again, it's Bond County where she spoke. But what I may have said, Ryan's like, he's the lawyer. He's like, yeah, what I may have said is that all people around the state need to get out to vote. And if you don't like Trump, plug your nose and vote for Trump. I've always been a proud supporter of our president and the Republican Party. Proud supporter of the president. I was sitting right there when I heard her say it. It's like, she's spinning the reality. That's what politicians do when the heat's on them. They will not speak directly to the questions of the voters. They try to redirect you, and that's the only reason she went to that event last night and grabbed the microphone when she shouldn't have even grabbed it. The last thing I have for you is tonight we are going to Washington County. Me, Brian, Shannon, Brian's lovely wife, Darren Bailey, friend of Darren's, a couple of other people. We're going to go to Washington County. It's in Nashville. It's a little county in our district. It's Charlie Meyer's district. He's my representative. Tony's coming, and I would suggest to you that the only reason that Tony's coming down here is she's trying to make Charlie look good because Charlie's going to draw a primary opponent. And they're sold out, baby. They got standing room only, and there's not going to be enough food because I'm going to be there, Brian's going to be there, and I'm going live when Tony talks. And I want all of you to listen in, and let's just see how much gaslighting she tries to do because you guys know what's been going on, and she's going to be down there talking nicey about a bunch of BS that doesn't fit her actions. That's all I'm asking her to do. Say something that's consistent with your actions, consistent with what you've been doing, consistent with what you vote on. Don't say one thing and do another because that's all she's been doing. Brian, anything else to add while I'm looking for some questions?
I'm going to be more optimistic, and I'm going to hope that her speech says that she acknowledges some of the issues that have happened and that she's going to turn a corner and do better going forward because I'm an eternal optimist. So that's what I'm rooting for tonight. But
I'll bet you a steak dinner at the most fancy place in the region that's not going to happen. If that happens, well, I'm going to buy you steak dinners for a year.
I'll be buying the steak dinner, but I'm still going to hold out hope. So.
Let's see. Let me see here. I don't think we got any questions. I don't think we do. Guys, that's been about an hour. There was just a lot to talk about. I was like, Colin Corbett. He talked for an hour about nothing, which why they get 200 views. And yeah, so that's the way it. But that's where we're at, you guys. That is exactly what's going on. That's why it's happening. We're not creating divisiveness by doing what I'm doing or anybody else. We are just shining a light on what they're already doing. And if what they're doing is divisive, then what I'm explaining to you comes across as divisive because I'm explaining to you what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're acting, how they're voting. That's the real lack of unity that we have. If Tony wants me to preach good things about her, then quit fighting in Republican primaries and beating grassroots opponents to death, quit taking money from Democrats, and bring the fight to the Republicans. Or to the Democrats for the Republicans, and tell the state of Illinois we are going to go everything we can and focus on beating Democrats to the fullest extent of our ability with every penny we got That's all we're going to do. We're going to call these people out for what they are. And if that means that I'm at risk for losing my leadership spot, I'm willing to take that risk. If she does that, I'll be your biggest champion. But when she's doing what she's doing, I'm going to keep talking forever. And she's going to face a primary, and Noreen's going to face a primary, and Charlie's going to face a primary. And we will break the party to the point that we're down to 35. Because that's where we're headed anywhere, Bryan. If we don't start fighting back, they're going to keep picking us off 1 seat at a time, 2 seats at a time. Do you agree with that?
Oh, well, there's two seats. Well, we won one by 70 votes and one by not much more up north. I mean, those are right on the edge of losing them in the House right now. I mean, it was fortunate we kept them.
Marty, you're talking about Marty's race. Marty lost or won by a few hundred votes. They spent $3.5 million on Marty, the Democrats. Yep. Marty had a couple 100,000. You know how much money the party spent? Zero. Because Marty is not the golden boy within Tony's world. He thinks Tony not doing the right thing she needs to do. It's his right. Tony was willing to let Marty lose and go to 39 instead of fighting for him to keep us at 40 because she wanted rid of him. Because he does not follow the Tony McCombie dictatorship rules. That's what she's all about. She's not fighting to hold every seat we can and fighting to pick up every seat we can. She's spending most of her money, third of it for sure, when it's in a cycle with a lot of Republican primaries, to fight for the incumbents. And then she goes out here and only fights in races for people that will be loyal to her. She's trying to run the Republican Party like Mike Madigan ran the Democrat Party. She doesn't have the money. She doesn't have the connections. She doesn't have the talent. And it is destroying the party in the state. We can only win by the people, the grassroots people, committee by committee, precinct by precinct, going out here and getting the votes. And if we do that, we can win. I promise you. But none of them are going to talk about that. Anything else before we go, buddy?
No, thank you, sir. Keep up the good work.
I'll see.